Well, I was gonna ask about Randolph Winters, if he's still part of Figu, or is he? Does he? It seemed like he kind of fell off the map. I wonder if you had more insight
Oh
on
yeah,
that.
I met Randy in 1986. We worked together, actually, and we made a film together called The Pleiadian Connection. What had happened was I was living in Los Angeles and I was hoping to find people who were familiar with the material. And somehow I met Randy, and he was making presentations, holding lectures, and things like that. And we were talking, and I had at that time, I had already gotten, in 1979, I'd gotten the first 1,800 pages of the contact reports. So we both knew that material, and he'd already been to Switzerland. He'd already met with Billy, and we hit it off. We were both musicians and everything else. And what happened was, I was his opening act. I would do my new age comedy and new age songs, before he would get up to speak. And so he would speak, and I would go sit down in the audience and all that. And I would sit there, and over time, I started to really notice how many things were different than the way I knew them from the material, that didn't seem to accord with what was in the contact reports. And I thought, I want to take a shot at doing this myself, at making presentations. And so I mentioned to Randy, I said, I'd like to do some presentations myself. It just interests me to do it. And he said, well, I'll give you a slide carousel with all the copies of all of Billy's photos. He was very nice about it. This is the funny thing. So um, personally, I enjoyed, Randy's a great presenter. He's very natural and relaxed. He has this nice charisma in that sense about it. The problem was not that he didn't, know the material and couldn't present it. He certainly could. But the problem was that he started to change things, to insert things in the material that weren't there, and then authoring some things himself and representing, somehow that this was really, part of the teaching. Anyway, I went about starting in about 1987. I did my first presentations in Los Angeles and Hawaii and all this. Then Figu, somewhere, I don't know, around 1990 something or other, had asked him to not represent it anymore, that he was part of it and that he was representing, Billy's material with approval. And I think, he was kind of upset by that. And I had not yet, of course, asked to do it officially. I just was going out to do these presentations and just see what would happen. And that I could do it the way I thought it should be done, which was really to stick to the material and to not insert, too much at all personal material in there that wasn't extremely relevant, and make a distinction between what's in the material and what is coming from the presenter, in this case, me. And I had many, many, many years of experience performing as a singer songwriter in different places in the US. And I decided to kind of put that on, certainly on the back burner for the most part, but also to not do my presentations for the Meyer case in as if I was performing it, just to do it as straight ahead as possible. Because I thought Randy had otherwise done, an incredibly good job. He had all these tapes out. We made the film together. And it was, I considered it too bad that he, had kind of taken that route, and he authored a book, I think, called The Pleiadian Connection, or no, Pleiadian Mission. And he just kind of went off on this tangent where he was representing things that were not really there.
I watched a lot of his old stuff, and yeah, he's a great presenter. Like he's great talker, and he really draws you into the story. Yeah, it's
Yep.
really unfortunate to hear that in that
Yeah,
video.
Randy would alter things, so you'd have to go and check. That's why I started to do it, because I'd go and I'd go, wait a minute, I didn't think that was in there. And it's like, so he took some liberties. I don't know everything that he did about it. It's not in the forefront of my, pardon me, my memory, but he just kind of went off on tangents.
After all these years of dealing with the things around Billy Meyer, what can you tell us about the life after death? In your opinion, is there reincarnation? And if there is, in what form? What can you tell us about reincarnation?
Well, I will try to make sure I'm not giving you my opinion so much as my understanding, as such as it is, of what is in the material. And reincarnation, according to the teaching, is a fact of life. Now, we don't know that one way or the other. We don't know whether that's true. We don't know whether it's not true. We either believe it's true or we believe it's not true. Now, the other option is that we reason through the information and come to a conclusion. Either we determine, as far as we're concerned, it's true or it's not true. So in terms of my understanding of the Meyer material, what happens is that the part of us that is immortal, which is the human spirit located deep within the center of the brain, that is the part that reincarnates as a different personality each time, not the same person. And this is why, if you will, to just put it right out, why the whole premise of a second coming of Jesus Christ as a personage, someone who never existed, there's no evidence really for somebody of that name. But the strange part of it is people think somebody's going to show up, the way they imagined whoever he was really is, and it just doesn't work that way. So I think we may have discussed this a little bit before, that there's something that is referred to as the soul, which is really the psyche, and that is basically centrally located around the solar plexus, with filaments goes throughout the body. And this is the temporary part of us, the personality, the consciousness parts, certain parts of that are all connected, emotions and what have you, through this so-called soul, the psyche. That dissolves after death. So when we die, that part of us that has all that information is dissolving, and that information is being processed by the spirit form, the spirit, which doesn't die, it simply leaves the body. You can't, if you truly die, you don't come back. There's no like, I was dead and I came back. That's explained a bit too, that's not true death. When the spirit leaves the body, that's death. It does not come back in. It goes into a kind of etheric realm, if you will, around the planet, around the earth in this case. That's called the beyond. It's a non-place as far as we're concerned. As far as human beings, our consciousness, our awareness, we as individual personalities cease to exist upon death. And so we don't have an experience of anything. And we also don't experience not experiencing anything. I mean, can people, this is one of the great existential questions, and this is covered in the Meyer material quite a bit. If human beings have a kind of still an innate fear of death, and probably in many ways a healthy thing that keeps us alive and avoids certain things, but our fear of death is tied into a lot of religious stuff that goes back a long time, because the teaching about reincarnation and what death is and what it isn't has long been corrupted. So we never know. I've never known not being, you've never known not being. And yet, if it's true that our essential spirit form has had many, many, many previous reincarnations, different personalities, and now we're, these guys here, D and M right here. So we have these personalities. We don't know not being, which if we could think it through and reason and use this material, we would start to overcome more and more the fear of death and not being, which is tied in to, of course, our awareness of life and the very bad information that human beings have been subjected to and immersed in and drowned in, based on all of the illogical and false beliefs of religion. So the beyond, the place that it is said that the spirit form goes to, which is, in fact, it could be literally right here in the etheric sense. That is not like a place where suddenly we, our little personalities, which are actually gone, are gambling around through the hills, and the bunnies and the butterflies are flying, and there's Aunt Frida and Uncle Johann and all the rest. No, there is none of that. That's, again, stuff we've been made to think that we're going to have this through the religions that talk about heaven and hell. This has affected human consciousness for so long, but it doesn't exist. There is no awareness of this other realm. The spirit, which is very neutral, it isn't active in the sense of a personality form. It isn't feeling and creating things. It's like a battery for now, for a long time to come in us. It's the energetic component that enlivens this whole thing. Then there's the consciousness that is different thing from it. So the consciousness, the solar psyche, is all of that is dissolving, but parts of it are kept also in a consciousness block, in the storage bank, things like this. This is information that I don't try to go into great depth, because I'm not going to do a great job with that. And even that which I could elaborate on a little more is much better gleaned directly from any and all of Meyer's books that go into it. And there's free information where he speaks, in contact reports about it. But certainly in the different books like, oh my gosh, there's so many. Almost, you could say, in almost any of the books of the creation energy teaching, the spiritual teaching, there is some mention of reincarnation, what the spirit form is, even the changing of the word from spirit to creation energy. But to try to essentially answer as best I can what you said, we do not then come back as anything other than a human being. We don't come back as a cantaloupe or a canary. We only now incarnate as a new personality, and the spirit only reincarnates in a human life form, in a human body. The appearance on this planet of the next personality is because our spirit form reincarnates in a new personality on the same planet that the previous personality died on. More than likely, for some time to come, all of our subsequent reincarnations of our spirit form, our new personalities, will be on this planet, with the exception of a couple conditions. One would be that if and when we had space travel, true space travel, and could go even just to other planets in the solar system, like Mars, where it is foretold that at some point there may well be colonizations from Earth on Mars. If that occurs and we die on Mars, we would reincarnate. Spirit form would reincarnate on Mars. The other thing is, if this planet was destroyed either through natural or man-made cataclysms, destroyed, uninhabitable, can't support life, the spirits are said to, in an unconscious way, migrate, if you will, to the closest planet, wherever it would be in the solar system, or more than likely outside of it, that would be suitable on an evolutionary level for the reincarnation of that spirit into a personality that would fit in evolutionarily with the life forms that are already living on that planet. That means, my understanding, let's say the planet was destroyed, and this migration of all the spirit forms, which we have no experience of, it's an act of creation. They migrate. They are attracted to the closest suitable planet, with human beings living with, let's say, developments in terms certainly of technology and hopefully consciousness that are comparable within a range of what we know, what we've just come from here. So we would simply be a new personality of Dustin and Daniel's and Michael's spirit forms, as we think we own them or whatever, new personality, male or female, whatever, we would pop up having a sense of this is our, this is where we live. We wouldn't be carrying 99.9% of people aren't going to be carrying a quote unquote memory. Oh, I used to live on Earth. Now, it's not impossible. And we know there's some stories about like a young boy, a Russian boy who claims he was on Mars or some such. These things can happen, but there are very, very certain and specific laws that pertain to reincarnation as well. So that it's not just like, oh, well, it's total crapshoot. The more we study the teaching from Meyer, the more we can understand what is said about reincarnation and how that works. And it's not like, in the New Age thing, you choose your parents and you choose your life before you come in, and all this stuff that sounds real nice and fancy. But Billy is saying, no. First of all, you are not yet a formed, consciousness. When you are, let's say, the spirit is attracted vibrationally. This is the way I understand it, to the mother, the situation where the spirit will come into the womb on the 21st day, where there is a small embryo that's developing, and enliven that embryo on the 21st day. Wouldn't I think also the heart begins beating? Now, side note here, this also means that if this is so, that people who believe that abortion is wrong under any circumstance and those who believe it's right are both wrong and both right at the same time, meaning that according to the teaching here, this is going a little farther, but just so we understand, abortion is allowed in the teaching, and according to the Playaran and Meyer, in cases where it's critical for certain reasons, meaning like the life of the mother, the development of a healthy fetus that will come from the embryo into a fetus, where it can be determined that there are going to be malformations, bad handicaps, because there's a law, apparently a law of spirit, of the human being is entitled to come in whole and healthy. Now, it doesn't mean that any time there seems to be perhaps some little issue or not, that, oh, well, abortions at any time and all of that. So they're very strict parameters for that. So to demonize women for having an abortion under certain circumstances is completely wrong. And to make a blanket liberal law that, any abortion for any reason at any time in the development, that's viewed as a murder in this strictest sense. We don't know these things. We either accept, believe, don't believe, what have you. So this is why so much, if we study the teaching and through reasoning, human beings come to determine, let's say they determine that, well, that makes sense and all. Now, this is also saying that according to the Playaran, they can tell when the spirit form is there. They know these things scientifically. They know there is a spirit form, not a belief, not a guess. We don't know that either yet. We believe it, we don't believe it. So all of this about reincarnation, about abortion, about this is really, and of course about what does or doesn't happen in the interim, where the spirit form is assimilating the experiences from the prior incarnation it had, the prior reincarnation, and it is pulling that into itself or processing that. And according to Meyer, from what I understand, in a sense, it's an unconscious process. The spirit in us, certainly when we are alive, that isn't a conscious spirit. And that sounds so strange. We operate through our consciousness. Oh, well, I'm conscious. I'm a spiritual person, all this stuff. We are conscious beings, hopefully conscious people, but this other factor, the creation energy part piece, this that we know for the most part is spirit, isn't conscious. It isn't this personality. And if I understand correctly, in a long time to come, for all people alive today, here certainly on Earth, that consciousness of the spirit, where consciousness and spirit are functioning as one, is a long time forward in time, in the future for us. Many, 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 many lifetimes and reincarnations of the spirit.
That's pretty in depth. But yeah, that's awesome. I believe in reincarnation myself.
I'm not sure.
We don't know, but you study all the information, and let's say, Daniel, let's say you get one of the books and you start going, you go through it, then your own thinking will, you may, let's face it, because we don't know, coming to the point of accepting, someone can say believing it's so, or maintaining a doubt, this either state can occur, and the doubt state can go for a long time, because it's important that as long as doubts and skepticism come up, we think about those things, because those are essential to developing this independence of thought. This is not, the Meyer material isn't for belief. It's tempting for people who've been looking for truth for a long time. And this happens with a lot of people I know involved in the study and the mission, whatever. They're effectively going to believe everything. It's like people say to me, "Do you believe Billy Meyer?" I said, "No, I don't need to believe him. I have enough evidence that I know that this is true. I can determine that. A lot of it can be determined through evidence in the outside world and processes. There are things from the far distant past. I don't know. I can't know that for sure. And the unarrived future, can't know that yet. However, I could say that based on this literally error-free body of information, which is so important, I come back to this thing about the higher standard of proof being the prophetic information. And people very often, they hear prophecies or predictions, and it has religious connotations. And so people are put off by that, or they jump in to believe it because they're religiously conditioned. It's a very different thing here. And it's probably one of the most important things that if we got our heads straight as a humankind, we would be talking about nothing but this. And I'll tell you why. For instance, I think we spoke about it maybe last time or time before, that there's a couple of things that I did a blog about. Meyer foretellings, two very specific things among many that had to do with astronomical information. Those two items, since they are provable legally and scientifically accurate, they establish the real truth that there is space travel, not that we have it. There is space travel, and there are beings that have access to it, and there is time travel. There is time travel, or we could not have this information. Now, again, and maybe even though I went through it before, this is so important, not just for the idea of, well, what does Billy say is going to happen, in 3 years, or what about Russia, what about China? That's all in there too. But the stuff about Mars, for instance, Pluto, Saturn, any of the planets that he verifiably published before our scientists discovered it and thereby corroborated his accuracy. Now, think for a minute. If what I'm saying is true, and that means if you can, through your own independent process, determine that Billy Meyer published the same accurate information and more, some much still unknown to our scientists, before our scientists published it. If you can establish that beyond any reasonable doubt to a legal certainty, what does that mean? How could the man do that? He can't, once or twice somebody makes a prediction and they hit. How do you predict hundreds literally hundreds of specific scientific, environmental, geopolitical, medical, economic, financial facts, not theories, no theories. If we did nothing at one point, but repeated this for 15 minutes in our conversations we have, and just sat and struggled with that. Now, the good thing is, I know that Daniel and Dustin and anybody else can go, well, can you prove that? How do you prove that? Well, it's actually pretty simple, because first of all, anybody can do it, and many of us already have. What did we do? We noticed that there was information published at a certain time that we hadn't heard about, as Myers speaking about something on Mars back in the, let's say, 70s, 76, he's talking about, with Semyazi, the extraterrestrial, is telling him that there is, not only is there water on Mars, 1976, but our scientists will discover flora and fauna. There will be small life forms, and that we will find out that the environment is also very hostile to life. 1976. Years and decades later, scientists discovered there's water on Mars. Oh, we get a probe there. There's some kind of little organisms. That's life. Little organisms living there. And they found in the soils something called perchlorate, I believe it was, which is a kind of toxic substance in the soils. Well, we've got 3 hits there, but does it get more specific than that? Yeah, it does. It gets a lot more specific. Still decades ago, where they would find water, where the water flowed from and to, the nature of the material in the canals, it goes on and on. And NASA is always announcing a new discovery. See, the problem with our scientists is they have become, in the past, let's say 50 years, this trend towards celebrity started to evolve, and to this great self-importance that scientists, give themselves, and it became just another element of this society of celebrity and success and materialism. So when you bring now to a scientist this kind of information, instead of them going, what? You're going to have to prove that to me. Like I had a judge say to me in Las Vegas, prove it. And then, of course, it's simple to do. Now, when I went and met with the scientist, I think, told the story so many times, I don't even remember when and where I'm telling them all, but the scientist that I met with in northern Arizona, who works on the Mars rover imaging process there, I brought him this information. He couldn't believe, well, could these be making lucky guesses? No, Ken, he's not making lucky guess after guess after guess about Mars stuff. This guy didn't even know a lot of this stuff. He's a scientist. He was NASA and USGS. Try and bring this to somebody like Avi Loeb. He doesn't want to know about this. It's going to ruin his cash cow. He wants to talk about a so-called UFO going through a big chunk of rock, so he can make, because he's a professor at Harvard, so he can sell a lot of books based on utter nonsense and no science. The same thing with Robin Hansen. The same thing with Dr. Jonathan Jiang. They all got the bug to become famous and start talking about UFOs and extraterrestrials. But they don't know anything. They don't know anything. And they don't want to know, because there goes their echelon that they sit at. So when I tell you, this is the biggest story in human history right here. Space travel and time travel are real, and there are people that do it. And Billy Meyer happens to be one of them. How else could he be describing things in the future? From 1947, when he describes certain things about certain diseases and treatments and all that are occurring these days, how could he know many of the things that he writes about, the coming environmental conditions, the coming geopolitical conditions, writing about this stuff 70 years ago? That's why I say to people, forget UFOs for now. Oh, there's some big stories with it. I mean, the latest contact gives us a little more, about the other beings that are here, but chasing UFOs and lights in the sky don't get us anywhere when we could be learning the reason for the singular, authentic Billy Meyer contacts.
Since we talked about spirit or energy, since I'm a skeptic when it comes to almost everything, I still believe in energy. And you call it spirit, I call it energy. I believe in energy and spirit. I believe that we are all made of energy, and when we die, we go back to who knows as energy. I still believe in stuff like that. But I wonder if the spirit is really immortal.
My understanding from this is, well, first of all, just so you know, the term spirit has given way in this material for the term creation energy. So you basically are speaking about energy and what we know as the spirit, and I'm pretty sure the term won't just die away, if you will. The spirit may not die, but the term is also not going to quickly die away. It's creation energy, so we're on the same page, let's say term-wise. What Meyer said is the spirit is immortal, uncorruptible, undestroyable, if you will, all of this. Now, it's also said that after a very long time, billions of years, in the evolutionary process, where the human being has gone into first a semi-material, semi-energy form, not as dense as this form, and then goes as the spirit itself. It goes into higher levels of spirit creation energy that has yet to go fully and in its ultimate destination to re-merge with this creational force that is all life in this creation, in this universe. So that more isn't said about what that means that I have yet read, maybe in the Germans, I don't know. When this remerging, is the spirit completely, what happens to it, And quite honestly, while so many things are fascinating, and a lot of people are, when do we go into the higher council, the high council, and we go into our semi-material bodies? And I'm thinking, honestly, I'm sure it's interesting, of course, but it's not important right now, because we are, in any sense of the evolution of our spirit forms into future reincarnations, future personalities, we are so far from going into the high council in semi-material form that while we can study and learn and prepare and have this information among so much information in the teaching that has been put into the consciousness, we've taken it and it's there, it's there for us. We have so much more in the teaching that's applicable to us now and for many, many, many countless millennia to come as incarnated physical human beings, that I'm not at all trying to diminish, is the spirit. We're told it's immortal, goes on forever, whatever forever is, and our human consciousness, our human mind, what we want to call it, we don't grasp certain things very well. And indeed, there are things that the teaching speaks about. It says that the human mind cannot grasp how something came out of nothing, out of the void, whatever that is, this void that is the endless nothing, out of which this first impulse arose that ultimately gave birth to everything, everywhere, anywhere. Boom. And that's what the book, the Ur book, is about. It really addresses, this is like the greatest existential question. Physicists are always trying to figure this stuff out. And Billy, he's written the ultimate physics book. I said, there's just stuff in there. It's way above my understanding in terms of the math and physics. But this question has bothered me since I was 10 years old. A lot of people want, how can there be nothing? How could something come out of, and I remember bringing this up to Billy, I don't know, 10 years ago or whatever it was, and he said, the human mind cannot go there. And if the more a person tries to figure that out, the closer to becoming crazy they will be. I said, you mean the Plejaren don't know it? He says, no, their knowledge only goes so far. It's much greater than ours. And the Ur book holds keys to this understanding, but it also says there are certain things you can't know. Just can't. Human mind. Now, maybe in the higher levels of the Arahat and the Patalik, maybe. I don't know.
I just think that forever or immortality, those are strong words. If somebody says, yeah, I know that this is forever and this is immortal and this and that must mean that this person knows someone or something that knows what forever means, how long forever is, or that it really is forever, ever.
I got to just throw one thing in here. The first song I ever wrote, I think I was 17, the very first song I ever wrote was this kind of, teenage angst love song. And it was, I have been in love but once, each time as painful as the last. I found out so many times how short forever is, in our very finite human sense, especially when we're very young, things seem like they have to last forever, and then they don't. And we have so many forevers. In the forever or not of the spirit form, the reality is there's not much we can do with that either. It is or it isn't. And it may trouble us, but that's why reading a book like the Ur is so important, to get the mind to expand to where it can in its understanding. And it helps to take out a lot of the fear of the uncertainty.
We use so many strong words and we don't know what they mean. Like we use the word love all the time and nobody knows what love means. Nobody knows what forever means. People claim that they know what love means, but love is also a very strong word. And forever is a strong word, and immortality is a strong word. Those are all strong words, but nobody really knows what they mean, and we use it all the time, everywhere. Everybody uses those words like it is nothing, but it means so much. Those words mean so much, especially the word love means so much.
You're on to say, this is so interesting you bring this up, and I'll tell you why. Because Billy is extremely particular about the meaning of words. He finds that the German language is the best language to convey meaning, and that English is one of the worst. And it's why, while he says, his works are translated into English and Swedish and Russian, different things, but that they should be read in German because he has the benefit, seemingly so, through his own study, through his own abilities in being able to know and learn what the origins of words are, and the Plejaren with their language scientists who have done this research going back, millennium, where the language originated. And love is one of those words, just like you're saying. As a matter of fact, and I'm going to try to see if I don't mess this up, but there's two types of love that Billy speaks about, are effective love and affective love. Affective love with an A is based on affection. And it is not necessarily an enduring or true love, because it's tied in very much with affection and feelings and projections that we have and beliefs about how people should be and how we should feel towards each other. When effective love is something that doesn't rest on feelings, it's not dependent on feelings, that the true love, the holding that which is for the better of the other person, we speak about love, and knowing the interconnectedness, having the knowledge of the interconnectedness, the certainty that everything and everyone is interconnected. We're not just some foreign things that have no relationship to each other and to everything. With that kind of a deeper and ever deepening realization, understanding about true, effective love, we can love people we don't even like. We can just put ourselves in a place where our feelings, whether they are antipathies or sympathies and empathies, they are not the overriding thing in how we care for and about other people. Doesn't mean we run around effectively having to embrace and smooch everybody and smile and grin. But it is that certainty that brings that love, knowledge, not just the feeling, the knowledge, and through the consciousness, the awareness of that living interconnectedness. We are all made of the same stuff, not just stardust, which is a part of it, but consciousness, Geist, spirit, creation energy. And that means that we do not base how we feel towards others and what we do. So when one loves effectively, you can't hold a grudge. Why? What? Yes, you can, being slighted or attacked or threatened, or these are not things that make you feel like warmly embracing somebody. And you keep your distance from those situations and you protect yourself. But inwardly, you know this is all one thing going on, and that love isn't stopped. And if the best we can do is a neutrality, then we're doing really well. And if it's a positive neutrality, well, we're doing even better. And so when you say nobody knows what love is, there might be some information that helps to get us to think about what it is and what it isn't. That will help us to know.
I agree with that there are types of love. I agree with that. And I think the most important kind of love is the love that you should find for yourself. You should love yourself. You should find out how to love yourself, love you for what you are, and find out how to love yourself to the fullest. And then you can understand what love is. Love yourself. I don't mean with love yourself, I don't mean the way you look or what you do. If you understand how to love yourself, then you can learn to love others and be respectful to others and fully understand the meaning of love. Like I said, there are many types of love. This is my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. This is what I learned in life. First, love yourself. It's different from, oh, you also love your mother, love your father, love your brother, love your sister, love your friends, but it's a different kind of love. Most important love you should find is the love for yourself, and then you know what it means to love others.
It's, for what it's worth, it's very much what is in this teaching, what Meyer said, and it's to circle in on something that may also reflect that type of thing and won't be taken well by a lot of people. In the most recent contact that Billy put out, that we published too on the blog, Billy has it's like a dozen different points, and that they're wonderful. I'm not going to start reading it, doesn't it? But I'm going to read number 7. Never believe in a higher power above you, not in an imaginary God or gods or any other power, because you yourself are the power, energy, and strength above yourself. Therefore, it is you yourself who leads and manages your own life. How can we do that without either having or discovering this love of self, this honoring of self, not personality, but the loving ourselves? As you're speaking about, Billy said very similar things, how important it is to honor ourselves, to love ourselves. And then we are more capable of truly loving others, of course. And so there's, you wouldn't find an argument in this material about what you were saying. I think it's very wise.
Yeah, I agree.
I think what a good thing that happens is when when we are asked a question, or when we ask a question, when we are responding, or what have you, listening to answers, we start to learn what we do and don't know, and what we do, and should be learning more of it. And when we say even what we know, the knowingness is only at a certain level, no matter what. Higher for some people in this area, lower, what have you, for others. But obviously, I don't, I am only speaking from my own awareness and experience and stuff. And I know, quote unquote, some material better than others, and I have my own thoughts. Obviously, if I'm trying to explain something, I'm trying to explain my understanding of what I've learned from the teaching, and by my understanding what has come to be true for me, that is, also in the teaching. And I think it's true for Dustin. It's true for you, Daniel. You speak like what you were just speaking about, coming to know about, keep on hearing that song title, I Want to Know What Love Is, and you're answering that, right? And you're finding, the greatest love. Oh, it's such a beautiful song, and it does capture this whole type of thing. And if we are being honest about we know, we don't know, we can say to people, study the material, read articles, get a book, and then join the discussion, because you guys are going to make available, as you tried today, maybe for whatever reason it didn't happen, that other people can participate. Because there are people, I tell you right now, I know there are people who've posted on the blog, or I've spoken with, who know more about aspects of the creation energy teaching, or they remember something else about context, or that I've never even read, or you haven't. We need to share this as like a peer teaching thing.
Yeah.
And then we are not an expert lecturing and talking down to all the students. We are here sharing the information to provoke some interest, and to let people know you can find out for yourself. And you get a book, you come and you call in one day and you say, listen, I want to really fill in something that you missed here, or that people need to. We enrich each other this way. And this, during these times and the times that are unfolding and times to come, this will be the most important thing that we can do individually, even if it's by ourselves and we're not interacting. But if we get to interact a little bit, and a little bit internationally, nationally, we will be nourishing ourselves, loving ourselves, and helping to let others know that there's an interconnectedness. And if we create and co-create healthily, interdependent relationships, and serve each other from a healthy and strong place, we will be among the survivors for however long we can be, however long we live, and we will help other people along the way.
Yeah. No, like, again, me and Daniel are like honored that we can give you a platform to every Monday for having people that have questions for you, especially in the Figu community. There's so many people that want to reach out, maybe too scared to, or just didn't have the timing, or just didn't know how to reach you. I mean, you do say hit you up in your emails, and you do respond to your emails pretty quick. So you should hit up. You do. So hit up Michael in his emails, or again, call in or have message me, and we get you on here and start talking with Michael. At least one or two questions.
Well,
And,
if I may just say something,
Sure.
I love it because we are really all playing this game together here, and doing this thing. So we're honoring each other, and we're honoring the people that we want to bring this to. And Daniel does a great thing. And I actually do hope that there's some more people who have Daniel's perspective, their own version of, meaning that they either are completely skeptical, or they've only heard about this and they're not sure. And they have because again, coming back to when you get the questions, you start to find out what you think you know about this, or how you can answer something. And maybe, if nothing else, how to direct somebody, say, listen, that's covered. I think you'll find that information over here, that you can then determine for yourself. if that answers your skeptical question, there's nothing wrong with being skeptical. The only thing I find wrong is when people, come and say that they are professional skeptics, like so many people I've dealt with for over 20 years that came as professional skeptics to take down the Billy Meyer. That means you're not scientific. You have your preconceptions and you're not going to budge no matter what the facts are. It's different. Somebody can have a skepticism and say, well, I'll give that some thought. That's all you can ask anybody to do, because that's evolutive. So thank you guys very much. And, I look forward to our next one. I do hope people who see this, and I'll be posting it once, will tune in and call in, and maybe, on your posting of it, which I'll be linking to, you'll have instructions or tell people how they can join in. And you may have that already. I didn't notice, but if you do, and put it in there, and we'll invite people to participate. I think it's the best possible thing we can do.
Thank you too. And today you made me buy a book, and I want this book that you showed us. I will read it.
Actually, I have one myself.
Yeah.
Actually, I got this for my birthday just recently. Isn't that funny?
Really?
Yeah, I want it, and I will read it, and then I will let you know how I like it.
Yeah. And I'll only
get it in German.
Yeah, of course. He'll get it without the filters, and read small amounts is suggested. Now you can go ahead and read a bunch of people, but come back and read sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, and digest just a suggestion, especially with this book. You'll find there are many repetitions because that's the basis of learning. Other than that, I won't say too much, except you're right close to the FIGU. They'll send you a book. You order from Switzerland, they'll send you a book right away. And I'm excited to hear that, because it's a very challenging book. I have not finished it yet. I'm simultaneously reading this outer. Oh my gosh, I just have to tell you, guys, I'm sorry, but I'll plug this book, because this book, From the Depths of Outer Space, where Billy fills in details about his life, his travels, his time travels, the brutal accidents that have happened. I mean, this is an adventure story par excellence.
Cool.
I have it on my site. So if you want to order from someone in America, we ship internationally, but of course we have Billy books in Hong Kong with Savio, and he serves a lot of people in Asia. We've shipped it a lot of places, but he's right over there. And then you have FIGU. And look, this book, once your mind is being tweaked by the book, and you start to read Billy's life story here, and oh my gosh. And I'm rereading the introduction to meditation, and I'll get a book, we'll talk. So again, guys, thanks so much. Really.
Yeah, I'm excited for next Monday.
And since you told me it's a challenge, I like challenges. If it wasn't for challenges, we still would be, I don't know, caveman, maybe. So I will read it, and I will let you know if I like it, and I will also let you know if I didn't like it. I will give you my honest impression of the book. That's for sure.
Sure. And just come specifically with what's a yes, what's a no, so you can say, I didn't like this thing here. I don't agree with this, whatever, or I like this because. So then the audience too, we will all know what it is that you've taken away one way or the other, plus or minus, about things. So I'm looking forward to next week as well.
Again, I'm still starstruck that I'm actually doing this with you. So this is great.
I'm starstruck. We should all be starstruck. We go to the right place. So,